So there was a rabbi in Poland in the early 1800s who said, it's recorded something like, everyone should have 2 pockets, each containing a slip of paper. On one should be written, "I am but dust and ashes," and on the other, "The world was created for me." From time to time, we must reach into one pocket or the other, and the secret comes from knowing when to reach into each. I was on the East Coast last week and was flying in on Wednesday, and up high it was just sun and bright and the open sky, and then we came through like the layers of clouds and the bright white clouds, and then we got down like into the ash and the kind of all the smoke from the fires, and yeah, there was something that sort of did in my heart, and I mean, I think I'm picking up on something within the Sangha here, within our culture. But life has always been intense, and it will always be intense. Just the human condition, just having a nervous system, just being alive is, it's never too far from overwhelming, right? And that's kind of like the starting point, just for being alive. Even if you're being, even when things are going okay. And, but, recently, it's just felt like one intensity upon the other, and just here, just in this country, right? There was like Charlottesville, and Harvey, and Irma, and Maria, and Las Vegas, and the fires, and the kind of just the expression of greed, hate, and delusion in our political discourse, and I'm leaving out things, but it's just like, it was just like, well, yes, actually, yeah, wines, like all that's coming, sort of like coming into the spotlight of awareness around sexual violence, and it just it's just from my hit in being with practitioners, and is like people are like starting to lean a little bit in the direction of like a loss of meaning, or like a little flavor of nihilism, of things. No, a little, yeah, or a lot, yeah. Things just not mattering, or something, like the kind of barrage of suffering and loss is so relentless that there's we can't quite get a place to stand. So this is Flannery O'Connor sort of capturing some of this. where you come from, the spirit of nihilism. Where you come from is gone, where you thought you were going never was there, and where you are is no good unless you can get away from it. Where is there a place for you to be? And so in some ways, like the immensity of the suffering is an expression of the first noble truth, the kind of that there is suffering, that it's woven into the fabric of existence. But the first noble truth is meant not to kind of flatten and deaden us, but to actually enliven us, like for that reflection to be the kind of beginning of the path, and a path of hope, really. And I feel like the answer to nihilism, in the sense of like the loss of meaning, it better be good. Like, I know as a kid I did not have much like patience for answers to the question of like why, and it's a very sensitive kind of zone. Like meaning, our sense of meaning it's so central in how we think about our lives. I heard Vinny telling the story of like, I just heard him tell this recently, like this, maybe you've heard it, like his experience in his youth of being betrayed by so many people and so much that it set him on a kind of search. And his search, like he was going to go to the Dalai Lama, like he wanted to find to go to India to find the Dalai Lama, because he thought like, okay, maybe this is like his grace or beauty like can cut through the kind of sense of like total loss of meaning. And he said like that if the Dalai Lama betrayed him, if that was all just a shell game too, he was going to punch the Dalai Lama. Thank God Vinny did not punch the Dalai Lama. He described like going, and he did actually, the way he told the story was that it was a little bit like, it was sort of like one of his sort of last hopes, so like for like a compelling answer against the complete loss of meaning. And there was something about the Dalai Lama's presence, just the way that he looked at Vinny, that just cracked something wide in his heart. We need meaning, and we need a sense of meaning to I think to practice, to heal, to grow. And one of the things that can happen, like when the mood gets real low, when there's some depression or grief or trauma, is that the meaning gets like squashed somehow, and there's a sense of just sort of like meandering through our lives in a like subtly aimless way, and finding meaning is quite central in the path. Nietzsche said, when there's a why, we can bear almost any how. Yeah. I came to practice I think really looking to make sense of the intensity of life and the suffering of being human, and I really wanted to and hoped that I might find that some kind of sense of redemption in meeting the intensity, meeting the suffering of life skillfully in a way that actually preserved meaning. Now, in the face of that kind of sense of overwhelm and the loss of meaning, of nihilism, I feel like we need both sides of what that, both the paper in both pockets, yeah? I'm but dust and ash, and the world was created for me. And by that I mean like the kind of, a certain kind of like birthright of happiness, the preciousness of life. Yeah, so how do these work together? We forget about this aspect of being like dust and ash, and then sometimes when we have that sense of the loss of meaning, we maybe get some intuitive hit of being dust and ash, but we get it in a way that is deflating rather than liberating. Yeah? And there is a liberating side of knowing oneself as dust and ash. So, as I was walking through I got off the plane, I'm walking through the SFO terminal, and I wasn't like judging people, but it was just like everyone was so in their own world, Like you could just see how preoccupied everyone was with the tasks of their life somehow. And the way that kind of self-absorption just we just start to feel like the center of the universe in this way, yeah? Very much not like dust and ash, yeah? And in that moment, with all of us, so deeply absorbed in the melodramas of our own life, I had this moment where it was kind of amazing that we're even doing as well as we are as a civilization, but it's natural for us to feel like the center of the universe in a certain way. That's natural. This is Ajahn Sumedho. On a conventional level, we're all here in this room sitting together. In terms of the way it is, however, you are actually in my mind. I don't really mean my mind, but this is a limitation of speech. The room is, quote, in my mind. My eyes and the light in the room allow me to see, and that is a conscious experience, eye consciousness. You, then, are in the conscious experience. You can see me, but I cannot see me as an object. I can see bits of my knees and so on, but the full view of me I cannot see. For each one of us, this is the axis mundi, the central pillar. It is the center point in the universe. Each one of us is the center of the universe in terms of direct experience of the present. This is a reflection on the way it is. It's not an ego trip. One doesn't say, I am the center of the universe as a person. That would not be a reflection, but a perception which one might foolishly grasp. As far as your experience goes, however, in terms of conscious experience, you have always been the center of everything. from the time you are born until the time your body dies, it is the way it is. The rest of us come and go. You all come and go out of my consciousness. And when you are all gone, I am still here, wherever that may be. Even if I go, I am still wherever I am. So, because we always experience here, it has the kind of effect, the sort of optical illusion of making the center of meaning here too, yeah? Right? Like it just makes, and it's natural that our concerns preoccupy us much more deeply than the concerns of someone else, yeah? But there's a way in which that kind of optical illusion of like everything is happening here breeds a certain kind of grandiosity and narrowness, and we forget this aspect, but dust and ash. So this is from the Diamond Sutra. Thus should you consider your life, like a tiny drop of dew, a bubble floating in a stream, like a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, or a flickering lamp, an illusion, a phantom, or a dream. So, there's something for me that's been very important about the practices around mortality and death, and that actually helps puncture that grandiose illusion of this being the center of all meaning, beginning to put us into touch with like the remarkable fact that all the time before you were born and plus all the time after you die is almost all the time there is, right? And yet this is our time, but it's like this just like breathtaking blink of something, yeah.
Is that what you mean by not taking it by serious, but not?
Maybe, yeah. So we can know ourselves as dust and ash through some of these reflections on mortality. We can know ourselves as less and less our own very sense of our being and our life becomes more and more porous, more and more paper thin. As we get more and more quiet, we actually start to experience our lives, like as we start to let go, like in the moment, the sense of the substantiality of our lives, of all like the stories that we tell about who we are and where we're going and what we want, and the very fabric of our body, all of that in the stillness of the moment becomes paper thin. Yeah. There's like a sense of like the density of our being is aired out, and there's a kind of actually a wholesome sense of the loss of meaning. Yeah, like everything that we built and constructed and it's like we actually start to appreciate the emptiness of it, the dependence of it, that it does not exist without us holding in a certain way. And this, of course, is actually, I feel like a wholesome way of knowing oneself as dust and ash. But it's an incomplete story, right? In the other pocket, the world was created for you. A kind of celebration of the preciousness. Yeah. And as I've shared, the sense of in the wake of letting go, in the wake of letting go of a sense of ownership, of owning our life, what starts to arise in the heart is a sense of each moment being like a gift. And everything, all of the good fortune of your life feeling like a gift. That we are even alive, this body, this moment like a gift. Something that is offered and we can open to. And there's somehow that this combination of the ashes and the preciousness, that when they're seen together in some way, they make boldness more possible, and we need that. Yeah, I think as practitioners we need that in our life in this moment of geopolitical history. We actually need a certain kind of courageous boldness. Yeah. And it makes me think of a friend of mine who had a birthday, had a 60th birthday, and he said, as I see the end of my life more clearly, it just makes me want to risk more, to just to actually leave it all on the table. Yeah. Now sometimes in the teaching on emptiness, there can be misconstrued, the dust and ash side of this is misconstrued. And the Buddha warns very explicitly against the kind of nihilistic lean that it can bring us. So this is Rob Berbia. The concern that emptiness implies a kind of moral nihilism, an attitude that we can do whatever we want, and that following this path we will not care for the plight of others and the world, we can test through our own practice. But we will find that as insight into these teachings deepens, we become, as a matter of course, more easily moved to the concern for the world and more sensitive to ethics and the consequences of our actions. Opening to the emptiness or voidness should definitely not lead to a lack of care, indifference, or aloofness, or a closing of the heart. If I find that my practice is somehow making me less compassionate or less generous, less caring about ethics, then something's wrong in my understanding, or at the very least out of balance, and I need to modify how I'm practicing. Generally speaking, And although it may at first seem paradoxical, as we travel this meditative journey into emptiness, we find that the more we taste the voidness of all things, the more loving kindness, compassion, generosity, and deep care for the world open naturally as a consequence in the heart. Seeing emptiness opens love. As long as space and time endures, the conscious suffering and ease of beings is going to be of paramount concern. Yeah. Like, what else exactly matters? And so I started by saying, like, they're two pieces of paper, but in some sense it's one piece, and the word dust and ash is on one side, and the world is created for you on the other. Yeah, so let us do our best to meet the challenge and the temptation of a certain kind of overwhelm, or the creeping allure of that nihilism. Let us meet that skillfully. Let's just sit for a moment. So in whatever way that being together tonight feels nourishing, feeds a sense of meaning or hope, just connect with that.